What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today I want to do that thing where I sit and I compare sets. Where I look at the three most recent sets and we go, hang on a second, which one's the best? Now, there will be no fence sitting in this video like we do, and we're going to be looking at OP-06, OP-07, and OP-08. And the reason is very simple. OP-05 has kind of been and gone. And at this point, we know, we're pretty sure about this, OP-05 is the best. So we don't need to go through that anymore, we've had that. And similarly, even though EB01 actually came out after OP-06, we're pretty sure we don't need this one either. And it's not because it's a bad set, it's because it's a smaller set, and it's just not got the big cards and the prestige, however you want to phrase it, of the others in this list. Sorry about that. So that leaves us with OP-06, OP-07, and OP-08. Which of these is the best? Well, if we start off with OP-06, OP-06 is a good set. All of these are good sets, incidentally, let's be clear. OP-06 is a very good set that we're going to be very, very happy about. The Roanoa Zoro manga rare is a standard manga rare. It's fine, it's not particularly good. It's pretty gosh darn standard. In terms of alternate art leaders, we've got Yamato, which is a pretty big deal. And we got Perona, which is a pretty big deal. And then we got Gecko Moria, who sees a bunch of play, but nobody really wants it because Gecko Moria is apparently not that popular a character, despite the fact that Gecko Moria is still a ridiculous... It's the second best deck in the Metal Ring at the moment. It's the second best deck and nobody really wants it. And you've also got Vinsmoke Reiju, which is a fifth best deck. And actually, Yamato and Perona are generally more sought after in terms of cards. And yet, they're not as playable, which is a little bit weird to me. The other two leaders in the set, incidentally, are, shall we say, not as popular. Hope you don't pull these ones if you pull an alternate art leader. We're talking about Uta and we're talking about Hody Jones. And to be fair, Uta's decently popular, although does not have the value of the others by a long shot. Hody Jones, if you pull that as your alternate art leader, you have my sympathy. So leader-wise, OP-06 is a good set. We've got a couple that are very popular and a couple that are very, very good. And if we look at special rares, it's a good set for special rares, largely because of Rebecca. Rebecca is a really, really good special rare. It's a very playable card, but it's also a very popular character. It's miles ahead of any of the others in the set, but that's fine, because it's very popular. Although it's worth noting, we've also got like Big Mum, for instance, which is a phenomenally playable card, which is also very popular. And in the West, Miss All Sunday is also right up there with Big Mum, although there is a decent amount of breathing room between them over in Japan. But in the West, people do like Miss All Sunday. And then in terms of alternate arts in OP-06, there's some alright ones. We've got Gecko Moria, still not the most popular character, but an incredibly playable card. And you've got Perona, and you've got Kozuki Hiyori, for instance. There are some decent alternate arts. They're not over the top stunning in terms of how much people want them and how much value they're attracting, but they are decent cards in that regard. People will be quite happy if they end up pulling them, which is nice. Honestly, the biggest selling point for OP-06 is probably how much do you like the theming. Because OP-06, there's two real strong themes in terms of characters. We've got the Vinsmoke family, and we've got Thriller Bark. And there's other stuff in there, like Fishmen and all of that. But they're the two main themes. And if you like those themes of characters, this is going to be a cool set to get. But OP-07, I'm just saying right now, OP-07 is going to blow OP-06 out of the water. If we have a look at Japan, because again, we can't compare this in the West, because OP-07 isn't out until the end of this month, but we can look at it over in Japan, and an OP-07 wins. Like the manga rare Hancock, no question, not even close. Hancock is the second biggest manga rare, second only to the Luffy from OP-05. It is that big. It is significantly above, in terms of value, any other manga rare. And I know it's not out in the West yet, but I still feel pretty confident that when we do get it in the West, it's going to be the exact same thing going on here. Make no mistake about it, the manga rare in this set is a very, very, very big deal. People like it. People are a fan. People are going to be clamoring for it. And honestly, that alone is probably enough. Now, there's plenty more we'll get to that in just a second. But the fact that it's got the most sought after manga rare, that's a big deal straight off the bat. But there is a lot more going on here. Now, it is worth noting we don't know what the treasure rare is for OP-07 and OP-08. But we do know that for OP-06 it was Nami, and not to be mean here, but the Nami was not brilliantly well received. So honestly, I don't think people are going to be getting too caught up about that. I don't think the treasure rares, unless there's one in OP-07 or OP-08, which is really over the top, I don't think it's going to move the needle. You know, the manga rares are superbly rare, and they do move the needle on a set. But, I mean, Nami's like a $50 card right now. It's not made much of a difference. So back to OP-07 then, we have some good leaders in OP-07 as well. Certainly in terms of attracting value, there are some leaders here you should be excited about. Mostly Boa Hancock, although to be clear, Jewelry Bonnie is another big one as well. These are cards people are going to really, really want. There is a dramatic drop-off if we look at the Japanese prices after we hit those two cards, but those two leaders are big. The other leaders, the decent ones, are the second Rob Lucci and Vegapunk. And then we've got Monkey the Dragon and Foxy that are, to put it bluntly, not that popular. So leader-wise, OP-06 probably wins over OP-07. But OP-07 has the Boa Hancock manga. And also, when we look at the special rares, you've got Onami. And the Onami special rare is a very, very big deal. This is going to be another one that people are absolutely falling over themselves to try and get. It is significantly above Rebecca over in Japan, and Rebecca is high for one of these. But then you've also got Izzo, which is also very, very high, and then there's a bunch of others that are cool, but those are the two big ones. And when I say the two big ones, please bear in mind, Onami is the really big one, and then Izzo's kind of cool as well, but it really is all about Onami to begin with. Cannot stress that enough. That is where people are getting super excited. So special rares, I'm giving it to OP-07. Manga rare, I'm giving it to OP-07. And also, in terms of secret rares, there is a secret rare ace, which is very, very playable. Now, the secret rares maybe a 6 were kind of good, but they don't look good in the way that Ace is looking good. And obviously there is an alternate art of Ace as well. So having a really playable secret rare we've seen in the past can also make a big difference. The Ace being as good as it is, now it's a very expensive card, it's a 10 cost, but also when you play you recover a life, and then if you've got 2 or less life you get Rush. It's phenomenal. Sees a bunch of play over in Japan right now, so make no mistake about it, that could make a difference as well. And then in terms of alternate art regular cards, OP-07 is fine, but it's not hugely stunning. Like, there is a Boa Hancock, which is a pretty big deal. There's an alternate art Sanji, which is good because it's a very playable card. There's a Jewelry Bonnie. It's not phenomenal. But then again, most of the cards I told you about in OP-06 were not phenomenal either. If I'm looking side by side OP-06 and OP-07 at the standard alternate arts, it really is probably too close to call, honestly, if we're looking at value and all of that. So I can't pick between them in that regard, but cards like the Onami and the manga rare Boa Hancock, that's basically all you need to know here. I do think OP-07 is a better, more popular, more sought after, phrase it how you will, set than we saw from OP-06. And if you're asking me to rank them, and I know you're technically not asking me, but I'm making a video and taking it upon myself to do so, I am putting OP-07 above OP-06. No fencing here, I'm putting OP-07 above. So what about OP-08? OP-08 has only just come out in Japan. Is it going to be a big deal in that regard? And the answer is OP-08's a good set. I like OP-08 very, very much, but it's kind of like OP-06 Part 2. Not in a mean way, not in a rude way, but in a kind of OP-07 is special, and OP-06 and OP-08 are good, competent sets. Doesn't mean OP-08's bad. I like a lot of stuff about OP-08, but it means that it's not going to be up there with something like OP-05 or OP-07. I mean, the manga rare is Rally, and honestly, it's it's not quite the lowest. Soja King from OP-03 is still the lowest, but it is the lowest since Soja King came around in OP-03. And it's been enough time with the cards on sale that does seem to be kind of set in stone at this point. We all know it, we all see it. It is the second worst manga rare in terms of value, which is funny with Boa Hancock being the second best. And then in terms of leaders, the leaders are fine. But we've had big tournaments in Japan and they weren't won by these leaders. Now, the most sought after here is Charlotte Pudding. And that's partly because Charlotte Pudding's super popular and partly because it is a good leader. But it's not up there with Boa Hancock, for instance, in terms of leader, in terms of value over in Japan. And it's not really miles above the best leaders in OP-06. It's about in line with Yamato in OP-06 over in Japan. Tiny bit above, but not too much. And there's a sharp drop off after that. Like, I think Marco's a very good leader, but the price is not really reflecting that. King has clearly got a bunch of potential, but again, the price isn't reflecting that. And then you got Tony, Chopper, Carrot, and Calgara there that are fine. You know, none of them are quite as low as like Foxy, for instance, or Hody Jones, but they're not good. They're just fine. And certainly in terms of the special rares, now again, we've got a good one, it's Charlotte Pudding. There does seem to be one special rare in every set that really jumps up as a particularly good one. Rebecca in OP-06, Onami in OP-07, Charlotte Pudding in OP-08. But you do also have Ace and Jewelry Bonnie that are coming in just kind of a little bit below them. And I think the three of them together actually mean that purely in terms of special rares, I think OP-08 actually comes out on top of these three sets. Nothing is quite as big as the Onami from OP-07, but then again, if you take the average of the top three from OP-07 and OP-08, OP-08 wins. So, you know, it's kind of cool in that regard. But that's kind of undone by the manga rare being underwhelming and none of the leaders being particularly amazing either. And in terms of alternate arts, there are some decent ones there. Obviously, the alternate art Black Maria is very popular because that card is absolutely ridiculous. And the alternate art of Charlotte Pudding is also pretty expensive in Japan right now because that card is also ridiculous. And there's an alternate art Nami, which, I'm going to say it, is an alternate art Nami. And you know what? Yeah. The alternate arts in OP-08 are kind of cool. And they probably jump above OP-06 in that regard as well. It's going to be close because OP-06 had some very cool alternate arts. But I think it might just jump over there. It is very close. So we end up with OP-07 at the top by a mile. I really do think OP-07 separates out from the other two. OP-06 and OP-08 are both very cool. I think OP-08 on balance probably just takes it over OP-06. But because I like Perona and Thriller Bark's kind of cool, I probably lean towards OP-06 personally, even though if you look at a value proposition, it probably is OP-08. But then again, OP-08 really doesn't have the great manga rare, so these two sets are very close together. I've laid out the arguments, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me which of these sets you like, tell me which ones excite you, tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.